Hello again. My name is Jay Milanov. I'm the creator of the English with Jay project and the Essential English course. And you're listening to episode 6 of my weekly Essential English podcast. I hope you can already feel the positive effect of spending some time every week to work on your listening skills. If you still don't feel the effect, this probably means you haven't spent enough time practicing. Or you haven't listened to each episode a few times. So please do both. I promise it's worth it. This week I want to tell you about an idea that changed the way I work. To do that, I must first tell you the story of an Italian man. His name is Vilfredo Pareto. He was born in 1848, just 6 months after Christo Borev. And to be honest, he looked quite like him. He had a long black beard and he wore the same dark coats. Vilfredo Pareto was a really talented man. He was an engineer, an economist, a philosopher, and a sociologist. A sociologist is a person who studies how people act in a society. He must have been really smart to be good at so many things. But even he didn't know that we would still be talking about him and his work almost 100 years after he died. There are 2 reasons for this. First, he played a very important role in making economists use hard numbers and facts, not just theories. And second, he made a fascinating discovery. One day, Pareto noticed something strange. In his garden, he had peas. A pea is a tasty vegetable in the form of a very small green ball. It is a typical dish in Bulgaria too. And a pea pod is what we call the long thing in which the small peas live and grow before we decide to cook them. But back to Pareto. He noticed that a tiny number of the pea pods in his garden were producing most of the peas. This didn't seem logical, and he wondered if it applied to other areas of life as well. At the time, he was studying how rich some countries were and how the land in those countries was distributed among the population. To his surprise, he discovered that this distribution in Italy was just as unequal as the distribution of peas in his garden. Around 80% of the land was owned by no more than 20% of Italians. Pareto continued studying this principle and kept finding the same results. Not always in exactly the same numbers, but the inequality was everywhere. Today, the idea that a small number of things in one area produce most of the results there is known as the Pareto principle, or more commonly, the 80-20 rule. Pareto's discovery was so important because this principle is all around us and no one before him had noticed it. Suddenly, people started noticing it everywhere. To this day, you can find it in all areas of life. In football, for example, 77 countries have played in the World Cup so far. But from them, only 3 countries, Brazil, Germany and Italy, have won the amazing 13 out of the 21 trophies. To put this in numbers, less than 4% of the teams have won more than 60% of the World Cups. This is what I call inequality. Or take online searches, for example. In 2015, over 64% of all online searches were done using just one search engine, Google. The Pareto principle applies even to the Amazon forest. Out of 16,000 types of trees, 227 types occupy almost half of the forest. The reason for this inequality is simple. In the beginning, all trees, for example, have the same access to water and sunshine. But if one tree grows a little faster than others, it can occupy much more water and almost all of the sunshine. In other words, the winner takes everything, even if they win by a very small difference. A small advantage at the start can turn into a huge advantage over time. This is true with people too. A talented athlete will get more support and more sponsors. This helps him get better, which means even more support and sponsors in the future. Very soon, players who were just a little less talented in the beginning will be a lot weaker than him. What you can do about that, according to the famous author James Clear, is to always try to be just 1% better than other people in your field. This tiny advantage will grow and grow until you become almost impossible to beat. I will surely give this idea a try, and I hope you do as well. But enough for today. This was episode 6 of the Essential English Podcast. I'm Jay Milanov. Until next week.